Hello, thank you everyone for joining us today. We are here with Katie Mangelli of Monarch CPA, and this is the first in a series on emergency planning for your business. Today, specifically, we're going to be talking about how to support your clients when you are unavailable due to an emergency. And we're going to just have a conversation. I'm going to be asking Katie questions. I'm on the marketing team. In case you're wondering who I am, my name is Christine. And we're just going to have a great conversation and hopefully get you the information that you need to run a better business and be more prepared. So Katie, what do we need to know? What's the first thing that we need to know about emergency planning?
Well, I think, we're maybe coming out of this pandemic and starting to move back to normal. So many of us experienced different levels of disruption to our life, to our work. For any of those that may have actually experienced COVID with ourselves, our family, loved ones, we kind of already maybe learned some lessons about this topic. And I know for me, the combination of the pandemic, but also in the past year personally, I have experienced some life emergencies and definitely have some lessons learned where I could have done things better in terms of managing things with clients or my staff or my life, which are the sections that we're going to talk about. And so I wanted to share some of those with you to help give you an opportunity to think through creating a plan and being a little more proactive should an emergency come to your life unexpectedly.
Great. How often do you find your clients are coming to you with this kind of question or this kind of
Never.
Never. Oh,
Never,
gosh.
which I think is what makes me nervous. I usually do not hear from them until the emergency has happened, and it is a loved one or somebody else from the business reaching out and then almost trying to take all the pieces of a puzzle and putting them back together. And then there's always some pieces that are missing, maybe some knowledge that business owner or that team member had that other people didn't know. And it just creates a lot of stress and a lot of delays. And so that's really why I want to talk about being proactive and thinking through what pieces need to be in place to have a smooth transition should you as a business owner experience some type of emergency that would prevent you from fully showing up for your business.
What are some things that should be included in an emergency plan? Today, we're talking specifically about like how to support your clients. But since this is the first one, like what are some examples of other areas that should be taken into consideration?
So if we're talking specifically about clients, which is what we're talking about today, I'll kind of dive into those points. But today we're going to focus on clients, but then we're also going to talk about what if you had an emergency and you have team members? And then finally, what if you have an emergency? How would more that financial aspect of your business keep running and keep the lights on and the doors open in your absence if you're the one that handles those things? But as you mentioned, today we're going to focus on the client piece. And really the piece with clients is kind of three-part. First, what type of business are you? So what sort of resources do you have? What would be the plan for handling the client engagements? And then what is the plan for notifying them of what this plan is and what to expect? So kind of setting those expectations.
Got it. And when you say resources, can you explain that just a little bit more?
So what I'm thinking about is when you're a business owner, we have different types of businesses. So for example, if you're a solopreneur and you deliver the client work and you're doing all of the different parts of your business, the resources that you have to step into your shoes are lacking. So we have to get a little bit more creative about that. If you're a business like mine that has a team, then it's like, okay, well, I have a team that could manage these pieces, but how do we make sure that that team is running smoothly? As clearly I have responsibilities and manage the workflow and manage the team. So then how will this happen? So different businesses have different ways of operating. Some have maybe not a staff, but maybe they outsource work to subcontractors. So what is the communication? Do these contractors have client-facing interaction? Do the clients know who these contractors are? Is there a connection there where they're already in communication, or is there a gap where you as the business owner are in between them? So how smooth would that transition be with the client?
So if I'm either extrapolating from what you're saying or paraphrasing what you're saying, is it right to say that it sounds like based on what your business is, it's taking a look at how your business runs and who needs to know what's happening and when and how it happens. And then are we putting that in? One, is that correct? And two, where are we putting all this information?
Yeah, so I think, yes, that is correct. And the big question you're going to ask yourself is, how would my clients be impacted if I was absent? Now, we're not talking about having the flu for 2 days. We're talking, what if you had a medical emergency, a tragic accident that really keeps you out of work unexpectedly for, anywhere from 4 weeks to 3 or 6 months, and you have really limited availability to get on email and to do all the things. So that is sort of what we're dealing with in terms of how would that level of absence impact my clients? And to the extent my clients are impacted, how would that affect me staying in business? So that's the first part. Then the second part is, where do I put this? So I think that we want to start by writing this out. We have a template that we will be sharing and social media at the end of the series that will walk you through organizing your information. And then it's important to figure out who is that point person for you. So again, I mentioned there's different types of businesses. So let's start, if you're a solopreneur, now we have, think about it like a decision tree. Now, are you single or are you in a relationship with someone you trust? Would that person, your partner, be somebody who would hold this document full of who to contact, when to contact, how to contact, and bring them a little bit more into the inner workings of your business so that they could step in? Maybe if you don't have a partner, it might be a family member, your emergency contact. It might be a best friend, a business buddy. So you just need to identify who is that key person that you trust opening up your life and your business at this level, and having them be the guardian of this information, who would also be aware that you had undergone some emergency at this level, that you're in that level of contact with this person. If you're in a business with a staff, a team, do you have a trusted team member? Again, how would they even be notified? Would your family have their contact information? Can they hold this document? Would they be prepared to execute this document? If you have a team of independent contractors, what is your trust level? What is that relationship? Some are very close. Some are more like, I send some work here and there. You need to really look at how your relationships work and figure out who that point person is and how they would disseminate this information and take it from being a document into an actual plan. And also, if you are somebody who operates as a solopreneur, I think it's really about, sometimes our businesses can be competitive. We're in industries, we have competitors, we have people that, we're bidding against projects for, but how can you make a business bestie in your industry that you would trust, that has your level of attention to detail, delivers the quality of work, has a similar style, has a similar way of dealing and interacting with clients, someone you respect, someone you trust, someone whose work you would hire them if you weren't in this industry? And how can you create relationships with people like that could help outsource work too, and would care about you and keep things afloat while you are out of the office, and who would be able to just maybe step in, help you in this way, keep your plan active, support your clients, and just be there in that time of an emergency for you.
And then and I feel like this is more Well, it's relevant for no matter if you're solopreneur or if you have a business partner. When is a good time to do this? You do this like right after you get your entity formed? Are you doing this 6 months later, a year later? And is it something like when do you revisit? Do you revisit it?
I don't think this can be set it and forget it, because if I had done
Oh.
this, my business is going on 16 years old. If I had created a plan then, my business is far different now than my business was back then. And so I think it is something that really needs to become part of your mid-year and year-end planning. And again, we'll post links to this as the series goes on, but we have our strategic planning course coming live next month. And that course specifically walks through these check-ins and check-ups, and that could be really supportive to integrate that into that process. So you may want to look for that course, but we'll put that link in as well. Because one of the components that we want to look at is if you're out for an emergency, we have client work. There's client work that is imminent, it needs to be done, it is urgent. We have client work that may be a new project, maybe it was in the early stages, and maybe it has some room that we could push that. Maybe there's also some work with some clients that we're just onboarding, and to be honest, it may make sense to delete that project altogether from your workload if something happened. And so I think we would want to look at what can be delegated, what can be delayed, and what can be deleted. And those are questions for you in your planning. If this is something that could be delegated either to another professional, to team members, to independent contractors that you trust, how would you transition that? If it's something that would be delayed, what would be the deciding factors and components? Who would be able to make that decision in your absence? How would that be communicated to the client? And then for those that are deleted, who would you be able to refer if you've never even gotten started on this project? And so it doesn't make sense for somebody else to kind of pick that up in your absence. Who could you refer that out to and help that potential client actually get situated in a better situation so that you can focus on you and just the clients that absolutely you have relationships with and are counting on you?
That's great. And then if there's so hopefully you're coming back from whatever this emergency situation is there any sort of like re-entry process that should be taken into consideration too?
So I think, kind of what I was touching on there, and I think this is part of it, is that communication. So something has happened, you're now not at work. Somebody has your plan, and now we need to contact the clients, and we need to decide, really, the clients need to be pulled into that conversation. So it may be that perhaps we're going to email them and let them know, hey, we've got a situation, we're working on it, we have a plan. And we will be in touch. Please reach out to this person. I'm dealing with this. I'm the point person. So reach out to me if you have specific questions about your situation, about your account, and I would be the person to walk through those. And so that point person would be able to take some calls and emails and really figure out what are the client's needs? What are the client's concerns? If I'm the person who was going to be taking on this work, can I meet these needs? Can I meet these? I have my own stuff to do, and really have those conversations about, okay, I'm taking this on, we're in an emergency. These are the changes that are going to happen. These are in terms of timing, because if somebody else is picking up work, they may already have work to do, and really just setting those expectations with the client. Like, I'm here for you, I've got you. And we may have some delays, or we may have some other things, or we may have to communicate in this other fashion, and get really, really clear on what those circumstances are so that everybody is really comfortable. So I think that piece of communication is, how do we communicate? When do we communicate? And what are you communicating? And that all needs to be thought through as you're kind of creating your emergency plan. But then the piece, Christine, that you were asking about is, what about your return? So it may be that at the start of this emergency, we have no clue what the return looks like, or we may have some vague ideas that we can share. But as that becomes more solidified, I think that is when the communication picks up again. And what would be urgent? What would be, as a business owner, what is the thing that I would be the person that needs to pick up and deal with. There are things we think we have to do all of it, but if this client is being handled well and this project is being handled, what absolutely requires my time and attention, and what is reasonable given whatever I've been going through, what are my time resources? What am I really able to commit that's in my best interest and your best interest, so I'm not overextending or overcommitting and then not being able to follow through on it?
Absolutely. So bottom line, it sounds like clear communication is the biggest component of that, whether it's with you and your clients, well, definitely with you and your clients, but also with whomever it is that you are bestowing this responsibility, and then also making sure that this is all documented someplace and in some way and accessible, having the information accessible to those who need to get it. So any other final thoughts
I
on
would
this
say,
topic?
looking back on my business in the early years of my business, being a solopreneur, the biggest concern was I don't have that person I could call on. Like, I didn't necessarily have a business partner in my industry. And so, of course, none of us wants anything horrible to happen to anybody. And we never want anybody to go through an emergency, but we never think it would be us that would be going through it. And so I would say that is probably the biggest thing. If you are a solopreneur, is identifying who could be a support to me during this time. Who else does work like I do that may be able to support my clients, and really be able to step in if there was a huge emergency? And would I be willing to do that for them? Would I be willing to be that person in their business? And really, that would be what I would want you to take away, is how do you cultivate that relationship and start getting creative about looking for opportunities to create those resources that would be supportive and collaborative versus competitive. And the second thing I would say, I know as a CPA that frequently spreadsheets and templates and workbooks, I mean, we all have the best intentions until we get busy and they don't get done. And something that I learned actually through Christine this year is that sometimes we don't need to write all this out. And that doesn't mean don't do it. It means sometimes you could have a Zoom meeting for one and record it and leave that behind. So if you're somebody that would be better off calling your new biz bestie and having a meeting like Christine and I are doing here and just recording that conversation, don't feel like you have to put it in a workbook if that doesn't suit your personality and your style. If having a conversation is what would suit you, then I mean, I would be that person for you. Happy to hop on a call and we could record it and go through all the components and have all of the details there. Any format works as long as it's something that you're considering and giving your loved ones, that peace of mind that you have a plan and that they would be able to support you, not just while you need maybe medical or physical support, but also financially with keeping your business afloat during a hard time.
I love that, and especially because you can always transcribe a video. If that's
Yeah.
easier for you, then do that. There's tools out there that can turn it into words for you if someone else needs the step by step. So thank you so much, Katie. Even though I know some of this already, I've still learned a lot today. Thank you so much. And thank you everyone for watching. I hope this is helpful. Please contact Katie to have her help you with this. She's amazing at this. Coming up next week, we have the topic of your team and how to make sure that they're supported in the case of an emergency. And then after that, we're going to be talking about more on the finances component of how to keep your finances afloat in an emergency. So please join us for those two other parts of this 3-part series, and we'll see you soon. Thank you.
Yes,
so
can't
much.
wait to see you for the next 2 parts. Bye.